so John, you were naval property, naval base Guam that the boss contractor DZSP is currently performing, right? So the transmission line.
We're not doing that right now.
Oh.
The contract allows for Navy to contract and us to work together and contract to do such type of services. So that's gonna.
That's what you're proposing in the new contract?
That's in the language is in the new contract.
The new contract, okay.
That's the change that, before that we don't have that. So one may say that the Navy will consider the Navy before going out getting calls from us and saying, okay, I can see that I can get my services cheaper or better.
Okay, so that's a proposed contract or something that you're signing with the Navy?
We're just saying
Just
the
a
language that allows both parties
to start negotiating that new contract? Okay.
to affect the contract. This is here, there's some services the Navy can provide to us, some of them can provide.
Okay, and that would be at a certain fee, rate schedule?
For the power and the energy that we get, and everything, this rate schedule is set and received.
Mm-hmm.
For the other services, again, this is the rate schedule of wherever this rate is. They all can negotiate something. There's no rate schedule, though that is
There's no set rate schedule, but the goal is to get to that level where you establish a rate schedule if they're open to having contracting GPA to do that.
That's right. I think again, typically how that's done is that we found the UC, SEC, then we found the then goes into the rate schedule. Now the rate that they're authorized transmission level,
Right.
the distribution level.
Mm-hmm.
So the numbers that are coming from both my head is really the overall distribution cost.
Okay, and
This year the distribution cost that we have come.
right. And what roughly have you guys done some rough order of magnitude as to what that would look like in the form of income?
Yeah, several years ago, I think it was $6 million.
Annually? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That was the last time. Oh, yeah, please take the. Pull up. That's the thing.
We can provide us the information later on. Come in.
Right now, transmission, we're paying, let me see what I think 6 cents, no, this is the last, we're paying 4 cents, that's 4 cents, that's the way
Right.
Okay, Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, John, right now they bid it out. Is the thinking we would be allowed to bid on it to compete with their? It just gives the opportunity, if both parties want to explore it, then the Navy could explore it directly. Kind of like the whole customer service agreement. The Navy has decided we're not bidding out our power needs. We're signing up with GPA. It's been at the wholesale level, basically. But now we want the possibility, the military wants the possibility that if GPA can do the distribution level, instead of just the transmission level, if it's in there, we've always thought we could be very competitive with the private guy, right? And if we can do that and be competitive, then this new agreement allows them to talk with you. Because I'm also thinking that I was curious whether we'd have to about establishing a rate with the PUC versus just some of that they just want to hire you to run their distribution, and we would just do it on a cost basis. Why do we have to run to the PUC and set up a rate for?
So again, this option is actually kind of a move for ourselves. We have mentioned it to previously, and we just wanted that opportunity to be in the community service.
Sure.
So that at least now, the captains or future captains and our teams can have a discussion. And then it comes out, whoa, we can save, bring in 60 million.
That's,
Revenue, they can save 60 gold, which is kind of.
and then everybody wins.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
And of course, no one's really trading personnel except ourselves. I encourage the program, so it's easier enough for us now to station people personnel on a certain basis and expand our TNB team because we just work.
And so this is different, I mean, this opportunity wasn't in the prior agreement. We're now putting, you and the Navy want to now put it in this agreement because you see the potential for benefits to the Navy, benefits to our ratepayers, right?
Okay.
Great.
All the others, times protocol, so that is the same.
Okay.
Because our team will have
Oh, okay. Okay, is there a motion? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Motion.
And John, Article 12 is new as well? Acknowledging the PUC? No, it was part of the existing, okay. Good.
when this rate was done, they intervened for
Okay, on the highlight section though, it kind of points out Article 12, so what is the difference between the old agreement and the new agreement for Article 12? Nothing's changed? No.
Still acknowledge the PUC as our rate setting
Okay.
No further questions. Is there a second? Oh, wait, who's?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Move Commissioner Chaco, second by Commissioner Santos. Okay, further discussion? No?
This is good.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My apologies, my mic was on. But that's resolution 2022-07, again, this is to get the authorization for the overhaul of major overhaul of Cabras Unit number 2, and again, subject to the PUC approval. This is an overhaul that we had delayed, for various reasons, including COVID at one time. Again, we couldn't get the personnel in from Temas, from Taiwan to help us accomplish this work. And so, again, as was noted in the work session, Cabras 2 has experienced a substantial number of downtime, or force outages, not unforced outages, unforced is scheduled, force outages. Yeah, and again from boiler tube leaks, as well as always insufficient gas flow through the air preheaters and different things like that. So again, we have laid out the total work. The total work is about 4,960,602. It is budgeted in our CIP, and again, this will help us restore plan efficiency of the plan. In addition to again bringing its capacity up to at least 55, which is kind of where I have these machines now. They're rated 66, and they used to do 66 all the time, but again, with also the decision to retire, we're trying not to put as much money into the machine, but this is quite kind of important because we still need them. Still need it, and we don't want it to fail in the middle of the in the next 3 years, and we have to do the turbine overhaul because that's a single point of failure that you're in. We're in a substantial, difficult situation. So again, that's the request, Mr. Chair. For
Any questions or motion? Motion to approve. Motion second? second Commissioner Martinez. Further discussion, none? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, John, you got one more.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. FY 2022-08, again, this is for the approval of the 2022 integrated resource. And again, the 2022 integrated resource, as in other resources of different calendar year, if you will, is our updates. And as we take all the accomplishments or potential accomplishments of the previous integrated resource and plan ahead for the next 10 to 20 years and most especially for the next 10 years as to what are some of the investments necessary to achieve, again, providing your supply side requirements, generation. In this case, because we are going to renewables and we do have a mandate to achieve 50% by 2035, the integrated resource plan looked at all the things necessary to accomplish 50% renewable by 2030. No? So again, we will be ahead of that mandate, but the integrated resource, I'll just highlight, for the public, what are some of the key highlights of it? He's saying that Ukudu and the 41 megawatt are part of the plan, and this is the last conventional unit that we can foresee for the next 20 years, the needed and necessary. Other units will be retired as more and more renewables are added into the system. Now, how much more renewables are going to be added into the system based on the plan, looking at the next 10 years by 2030? We're looking at about 400 megawatts of new PV capacity or combination of renewable solar, wind, or anything else that could come in, because when we go out for bid, we don't limit the bid to solar PV. It still opens it it's agnostic to the type, right? So it is saying to achieve 50% renewable, of course, and with the Okudu plans and everything, we need to put in 408 megawatts of capacity. It's also saying that to accommodate the additional renewables, we need to invest potentially, and again potentially because we still have to go through and say, okay, this one is priority, maybe this one could be done something else, but he identifies what potentially is necessary, not only potentially, but what they can see is necessary, but it's potentially the cost in the neighborhood of about 230 million, which includes again one standalone battery for the system, a synchronous condenser so that the system can operate. If there's a fault in the system, there can be an opening of the breakers and not prevent blackouts. Is looking at again a control system that will take all of this supply. We no longer are going to be operating with 15 or 20 generators. We're going to be operating with thousands of supplies. So someday have to be talking to each other one way or another if we are going to provide quality service. No? So again, those are the key. It also looked and identified, we've had the net metering program since 2009, and we've had a free-flowing net metering program. So they have studied. They're studying 6 substations, and from what we see so far, that's in this. And in the balance will be coming over the next month or two, which I will bring again to you. It's showing that in some circuits, we are already having some voltage problems, higher voltage, because there's too many solar PV, uncontrolled solar PV within the system. It's also saying that, again, if the recommendation is that if the solar PV capacity is 30%, is greater than 30% of the minimum load, then you're going to start seeing this. So again, it's a good gauge for us to determine what areas can still accept uncontrolled PV and what areas that I definitely have to say, hold on a minute, I can't add any more here. You're already having voltage problems here, and therefore we need to seek out how do we address this, no? So again, we talk about whether allow batteries or no batteries. Again, this is the guide now that will make us make those determinations. So again, it's only about 9 volumes, right? If I remember correctly, and we did put it out in November, and and so what we'll do now is once you're past it, then you'll be open to be provided to the PUC and open to anyone that will want to see the tremendous amount of work that has been done to put together an integrated resource plan. And so last but not least, I'd like to recognize, the team and you've seen the professional teams coming to that put this plan together in conjunction with some consultants, very specific consultants on metering and all of that. And so again, congratulating Mr. John Cruz and his team, Jennifer Sablan, and all the other team members, the key members that put this together. So that, Mr. Chairman, is my summary on the integrated resource plan. And I'm open to other questions.
This is what sets GPA and GWA apart. It's the planning that you people do. It's continuously planning. You don't stop. You don't say, okay, the plan is done, you put it on the shelf. You continually work on this, so that's a testament to both GPA and GWA. So it's a good job. Thank you. Thank you for your efforts and the people. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the updated integrated resource plan, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, sure. No problem.
So we know we're all on the same page. On page 207, right, this is the rebate we set for our DSM program.
That's correct. And
So just real question, right? Is the PUC gonna go and look at this, or is this it?
no,
Can they come back and tell us no, or, because, for
No.
example, on 207, there's some changes, right, to the existing rate.
on the rebate, I think I agreed last work session that I'm going to bring that back to you right in February, right? And we'll have a discussion on that. And then again, we can go to the PC. Yeah.
Can the PUC go in and drill down just on this section?
In other words, do you need approval for this?
Well, because the DSM is funded out of the LEAC, that's where the rate piece, and how we fund demand side management, that's one part where we touch the PUC. Because we asked their permission and they agree that since the demand side management reduces our use of fuel and all that stuff, what better funding source than the one proposed by GPA, saying, let's use the LEAC to provide some funding for people to get, to do demand side management so they can lower their bill. So to the degree we change rebates and all that, they would look at it, but I'm confident, because we've been doing DSM with the PUC for quite some time now, that, we'd have to justify the change in rate. But I don't think we're going to have trouble justifying the concept, the prices change over time, so you might have to explain it to them.
I want to say one more thing, Mr. Chair, in line with that. The IRP and all these different components, even the capital investment that's there, is not really set in stone as to, what it does do is it identifies all the things that we would need to do. So what is the process is such now that we will, for example, we would like to go out for new capacity by this summer. So the next meeting or the meeting after, I'll bring to you and say, Commissioners, I would like to go out and proceed with 120 megawatts of new renewables. If you agree, it goes to the PUC for their approval, and then we do the process again where we bid it out, then it comes back to you with the contract. So it's really the plan, and then we will now begin to work within the plan. Of course, you can always, but everyone's kind of aware now that this is how we're heading down the street. We're heading towards 50% this is how we see it. We'll come to you. You'll have your opportunity to, to discuss and make your decisions on the various things. No? So again, and just like Commissioner Santos has brought up on the rebate, there's a change that reduces it, and we'd like to have more of the discussion on that, and then we'll bring that forward.
Commissioner Chaco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But John, regarding the DSM side, the rate that's part of the LEAC there's no changes proposed to that. You're just changing how you're going to distribute those funds.
That's right. The majority seems to be, the only issue here might be the dryers and the so most of it is stuff, but again, perhaps that's too drastic. Maybe, again, before maybe it could be a 50-50 split and then phase it out. No? But their finding is that the returns on the, from that is not the best, and the dryers like, oh, that's correct.
But you're also going to open this up to the commercial side as well.
Yeah, we are.
Non-profit side, other areas.
And some already are out, the big,
Yeah. And then John, on the IRP summary, the adjusted load forecast for solar rooftop renewables, is that 30.8 megawatt total or in addition to the current?
We have a load forecast, and in the, I'm not sure where's my team, but in the load forecast, we look at it and say we need this much load, right? So we take 30 megawatts out of that to be by rooftop, and then the balance now is what we plan for
Capacity.
supply.
But the 30.8, that's on top of the existing 24? In addition. So basically doubling it, so it's 50, almost 60 megawatts.
Yes, right now there's 28. And so that will be about almost double. And then furthermore, I mean, it doesn't, and again, I don't want, I would hope that others may not see that as, we're limiting rooftop. No. Because to do 400 megawatts of solar PV capacity, of course the cheapest route, and we've shown national study that says that, which is kind of straightforward, is to put on utility scales, no?
The fastest growing.
But then at some point you also will be doing other things, no? And that's where the thinking out of the box of our team will start coming to you as to what are these different options, and we can go out with several in one time to achieve the additional 400 megawatt, provided we are getting Okudu and all of that. No? And I always stress that, because without that, then we have to go to, we're going to have to slow down the integration of renewable and try to fix the generators so that they can work.
But you, as
they work well, but will work with the system and all of that. But so that's all. And again, excuse me, I just keep making sure, because it's kind of get lost in the concept. But
John,
the whole plan has that. Huh?
Yeah, I think, and to be honest with you, I passed out an article for our commissioners to read. Costa Rica's as close as you can get to 100% renewable. And even they still have backup generators. They still use generators. They have hydropower, geothermal, and wind. Those are the big ones. Photovoltaics and biomass make up less than 1% of the total renewable portfolio. So, but they still have conventional generators, because they went 300 days on strictly renewable. But, they have those days when something happens, so, they take care of some piece of equipment. So,
as you show, Mr. Chairman, 2/3 of it comes from hydropower.
Yeah.
Guam
does not
have hydropower.
And that's
resource,
firm power.
right? And that's firm, right? So the best fit for Guam for renewables, we've proven it, is solar.
For now.
The fastest growing, well, we've proven that nobody, even when private partners, and we asked them to take the risk of what technology would you recommend, are you willing to risk your money to provide us power? No one's bidding wind, no one's bidding hydro, no one's bidding nuclear. The bids, and they're all technology neutral, all the bids are for solar because that's where the private sector believes they have the greatest chance of producing the output we need at the lowest price. If the private sector is only willing to risk their own money with solar, why would we risk ratepayer money on other
anything
technologies
else?
that
Yes,
no
of
one
course.
else would risk their?
Of course.
And that's the, in the hearing last week, it's unfortunate, and maybe John is part of our, maybe we should talk with folks like at Micronesian Alliance, so we can teach them a little bit, because they just don't appreciate the trade-offs that are involved, and why even someone, as the chairman has pointed out, with significant renewables, they're not getting it from solar. But Guam can only get it from solar, right? We got typhoon says no wind, and we don't have big rivers. So we are who we are, and we have to work with who we are. But this integrated resource plan is going to take us to 50% renewable energy, not using oil, coming from solar. And I'm sure that the 10-year IRP update that will occur in a few years is only going to propose even more solar, especially as battery technology becomes more and more efficient and affordable. And because we know you can make the energy from the sun, but when the sun goes down, you need to keep the energy going, and the cost of batteries are not there yet. But we're seeing, if we had bought 100% solar with our first solar farm, we would have been paying 21, 22 cents a kilowatt hour. 7, 8 years later, we're seeing prices at 9, 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And it's that old saying, you want to ride the technology curve up while you ride the technology price down. Why is it difficult for the entire transportation system of the world to go electric? Because the cost. The technology hasn't allowed the average citizen to access it. It's the same thing with why we are working our way towards being 100% renewable. And as you pointed out at the hearing, John, the overwhelming majority of nations and states are giving themselves to 2045, 2050 to get to 100%. They recognize you can't do it overnight, and they don't want to pay for technology today that they know is going to be cheaper 5, 7, 10 years from now. And we don't want to take our ratepayer money and throw it all into expensive technology now. We want to grow with it, and your numbers prove that we can lower the power bill even at 25% renewable. We can lower it more at 50% renewable, and as we march towards 100% renewable, or whatever technology allows us to get, that's how we will continue to lower power bills. But no one is saying you can do it overnight, and that's what you do the integrated resource plan for. Is to plan how do we keep moving forward to guarantee reliable service at the lowest possible price. And the centerpiece of our IRP is renewables, and it's solar. But our IRP wisely says to do it at the lowest cost for ratepayers, you got to do it over time, and that's our plan. And this is I know John, you and me, and the chairman in particular. This is like our 3rd or 4th IRP. GPA constantly does IRPs, constantly updates it to say, where are we now? Can we take advantage of what technologies, what changes in the world to lower our costs for ratepayers? And we are, I was happy to hear you say at the hearing that you believe we are about to build the last major fuel supply generation piece on Guam. That we believe the long-term future will be having a generator that is backup, not base load, and having solar energy with battery storage being the main carrier and provider of energy, because it will increasingly become cheaper and cheaper for our ratepayers. And I like the way we get teased, because some of us are a little older, but I look forward to the savings, not only that we will benefit from in our generation, but our kids and our grandkids are going to benefit from increasingly lower and lower power bills, keeping money in their pocket for their families in our economy, so we're not sending it out for oil, and taking advantage of the expertise and experience of homegrown professionals here at the Guam Power Authority, the citizens that are confirmed by the legislature that serve on the PUC, and we elected representative of ratepayers. We all work together to reduce the cost of power, and we all recognize that It takes concerted, intelligent effort, and it takes time. There's no magic bullet, right? And yet, this plan lays out how we're going to get to 25%, 50%, and 50% by 2030. I mean, that's a very short period of time where we will cut our power bills, the use of oil by half. 25% reduction is 1 million barrels, as you testified, John, 1 million barrels a year less oil will be burned when we turn on Ukudu and we put on the solar farms. And we help the South by moving just one little piece of the Ukudu power complex down to Cabras, where we already own the land, we already can fuel it. And that little piece is going to be on, 3% of the time? We will, PD has had 24/7 power belching out into the air since the 70s. We are about to change that. And we're going to change it because of the Ukudu power complex, because of solar energy. And hopefully with the help of the legislature, we can add greater reliability for the South by placing 40 megs down at Cabras while we shut down 120 megs of Cabras 1 and 2, and long-term begin to look at eliminating the need for other fossil fuel generation down the road as we add more renewables, both utility scale as well as individual. Because I think right now the average, it would take something like 37,000 houses to produce 300 megs of utility scale solar. We're installing 5 a month today without any changes in net metering or anything. And so at 5 a month, we're never going to get there. The only way we're going to get there is to do these utility scale solar farms that other utilities do, that is in this IRP. And even the Navy, who's now willing to say, I want to be your customer for another decade, saying, hey, here's some land, put solar on it, and provide it to the entire island. Even they recognize that we're going in the right direction for the right reasons and that their costs are going to drop. And that's why they're signing up again with us with another agreement for another 10 years. So, kudos to you, John, kudos to your team. We have to keep working on it. I enjoyed watching the hearing. You had a young engineer testify, and he was excited about what we're doing. And we had a senior generation manager saying, you got to retire Cabras. You've got to move to new technology. And all of this is going to benefit us, our children, our grandchildren, the economy, and handle the growth, not just for the military. Guam is going to grow. And we want to be there for when Guam grows. And this IRP and these things that we're approving today are pieces of the puzzle that we are putting into place to improve the power situation for our people. Those 2 bills you testified on last week, they're pieces of the puzzle that the legislature can help us by passing to reduce ratepayer costs, increase reliability, especially for the South, clean our environment, a 99.4% reduction in harmful emissions. Even US EPA says, do your plan, right? The Navy says, we're signing up, we like your plan. We just adopted the IRP because we have confidence in you and your team and our successors that you've come up with the plan to reduce the cost of power, to improve service, and to keep our environment clean and safe for our ratepayers. All of them good.
Okay. Commissioner Mtoko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. John, I just have a couple of quick questions on the project description list for the IRP. Can you tell me what the adding the clutches to the CTs and the demo CT and add motor static start, are those, what does demo stand for? Is that demolish, demobilize? What does demo start for?
What is demo?
It says demo, dedido CT, demo CT, and add motor static start, only if retiring capacity.
Oh, yeah, that's to allow it to be a motorized machine instead of generating power. So instead of retiring all the machinery, there's still value to the generator. The generator will now be, instead of it producing power out, it's bringing in, it's being run as a motor to give inertia. It's a lot about having inertia in the system, so that when there's a fault that hits, you're able to
Adjust.
yeah, otherwise, if there's no inertia, which is what PVs are, just straight and something happens, you're gonna have a big drop.
So you would actually be sending power to it to,
Right.
and that's part of the synchronous condenser conversion?
the same thing.
So that helps you
Yeah.
stabilize
So that's the same
frequency?
thing. It's just whether you make it, there's a potential where you can do it two ways, no? One, you can still keep it as a supply side, and you can use it as a synchronous condenser.
And you would still need to add the clutch to all of them in order to
Pretty
accomplish
much,
that?
yeah.
Okay. And then we talked about this in the working session, but over 50% of the projected budget for the IRP comes from the standalone BES, right, at 131 million? And is that for the load shifting that we've been talking about all this time, or is that for something different?
Oh, there's a lot of solar PV that's in the system now, right? 28 plus the 60 that's coming on, plus again we have Hanwha that's coming on. Say, that's almost 180, 120 plus plus the 30, no, is 150, right? For typical daytime load is 200. So if you take 150 out of the 200, you only have 50 megawatt that the base load anybody can run, no? So what you can do now is get a battery and take some of that production in the daytime, right, from the renewables, store in the battery, and then keep the generators running smoothly at this most efficient rate, see? So the result of all that will provide you with savings. It provides you with reliability, because then you have the reserve in case you really need it only at a certain time. You can save the battery and use it at that time. So it allows you all that flexibility. So we believe that that's one of the main items that we should go. So what we're going to do now is take that and work the economics out of it, work all of the other plans, and then make a more definitive recommendation to yourself. No? But again, you're correct. That's one of the biggest, but that's the only way we're gonna shift energy.
And reduce our
Is
carbon
more
use.
battery systems, no? And
Stop burning oil.
again, we are confident that we can do that, because when we have the backup generators to help us in days that for other issues.
On a cloudy day.
Yeah.
Or,
And
Okay. Any further questions? No? Ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you very much, John.
all right.
Do you want to give
GM
us?
report just quickly.
Sure. Give us the highlights.
Just a highlight, Mr. Chair. Again, demand is already 2022 demand is already exceeding the 2019. So
wow.
in a way that's good news. I mean, you see in Mr. Kim's report, in this past year we added 800 new customers. No, the energy is now tracking almost close to 2019. I try to use 2019 because we were starting to grow a little bit, and then the pandemic, so we're kind of back up there, right? 332 we demand this month to 4092. Some may say, oh, that's a lot. No, that's not a lot. No. So again, we're doing some work to get the 332 up, but again, we should be able to meet the demand this month. Solar PV, of course, as soon as the power rates start going up, you're getting some more sales, but I think in like the past two might be 15. So again, we'll see, but this is the last two. So we now have 2,295 customers, 28.2 megawatts in the system. Next, fuel prices went up, came down, it went up. I think it's starting to come down a little bit again. No, the PUC will be setting the LEAC this coming Thursday. Next. Demand side, again, I won't go through all of this, but it gives you an idea of how much we're putting into the system, how much more money we have. 85, almost 86% of everything that we provide rebates on is air conditioning. And as you can see, the continued trend of applications and continue to move up. And again, the PUC provided us $3 million a year budget for this one. Next. Just some updates. The power plant, a lot of work still going on. They're still working towards financial closing. We need this bills to be passed so we can have some certainties on that. They're still working on their permit, but I know they're doing other things. But again, work continues. Hopefully, I have much better news next month that of a groundbreaking date coming up. So, COVID-19, 93% of our employees vaccinated. We have about 26 cases in January itself. We're at the, heading, I said, like everything else, there's been a peak. So far, there's no, we haven't had to interrupt services. And so again, we continue to work with our employees. We recognize we have a team on board. Tracy and her safety group are constantly doing this, contact tracing, having people, stay home, making sure that we test them because we have our own self-test kit and all of that. So like everybody else, we are experiencing that. And again, we're been fortunate that we haven't had to interrupt services. 1.3 million emergency rental assistance program, which provides for utilities payments and stuff. That's how much we've been helping the customers together with DOA, right? That media roundtable, we did have that on Bill 212 to 13. And again, I had the public hearing the last week, Thursday. Next. Update, PUC has approved the PMC for the fuel storage tank. They have approved a letter from the PUC chairman about not stopping us from requiring batteries. I did have a discussion with them that we have to have a discussion on this because, the batteries are part of technical solutions. And so we'll be having more discussions on that. Up for approval is the ratification, I guess, of the contract for diesel fuel supply and the LEAC adjustment. So one might say, okay, with the LEAC, and of course the recommendation by the CCU is to hold the LEAC at 17.1 cent. One might say, whoa, where are we in terms of rates? No? Well, if you look at the rates here, WAM is 26.9 for the average 100 residential customer. If you look, Saipan here, 28 point something with some subsidies there. But look at the rest, Oahu, Hawaiian Islands, Virgin Islands, Lanai. They own the 30-some cents a kilowatt hour. No? And this is as of January 2022. Now one might ask yourself, well, why does Hawaii have such a high cost? No? Well, uncontrolled, it's, roofed up, in my opinion, is roofed up at any cost. So do we want to pay that amount of money for, I think what we're trying to do together as an island is try to put renewables and reduce the cost of our customers, no? And maybe at some point it's going to have to start increasing a little bit, but certainly not in this level. And this is similar to what I've seen also put out by the PUC of California, showing what the West Coast, yes, excuse my language, has in terms of its cost per kilowatt hour based on renewables. So they're rethinking some of that at this point. Next. I think I won't go through the rest, Mr. Chair. Is just gives you a trend, pretty much same. It just upstates all of that.
John, quick question: if our sales are going up and tourism's still not back, where is the new sales coming from?
New customers are coming in.
You mentioned 800 new customers.
800. I think part of it is. But we'll make that analysis,
cheap
Mr.
mortgage.
Chair.
I mean, we're glad there's more, we want to provide more load to our customers who need it, right? We like that. I just know tourism is really still, not there, and yet, like you said, we've added 800 customers, the chairman points out housing is getting built, you pointed that out, so there's a lot of other demand occurring on Guam that we're seeing a growth in sales, we're seeing a growth in load, and I'm just trying to make sure I understand better where's the source of this growth, where's the source in
We'll
load.
try now the residential, the commercials, the Navy, and everybody as one of our main reporting items.
And-
So we'll show that to you by.
And then John Kim, did you have comment?
Well, yes, most of the growth has been the residential side. The hotels, even though they're not operational.
They're still consuming.
Less than 20%.
Uh-huh.
Still running it.
Yeah, to keep the building going.
Yeah, so they still need to do the buildings and they still operating partially.
And the new customer profile is mostly residential, of the 800 that you added?
Yes, because there are no more condominiums, apartments, or I think the highest one of the other ones I've seen is the one near Harvest.
Yeah, because that's important. There was a perception by some of our critics that we're doing all of this load growth just for the military. It's not.
not here.
Guam is growing, right? And it's not even growing with tourism. It's growing with housing, and huge pent-up demand for housing.
But people are still even building, Commissioner Sanchez, people are still building for the tourism market. Surprisingly. I mean, there's this huge development up next to Two Lovers Leap.
But even without that showing up yet, Mr. Chair, we're seeing load
I'm just
today
saying,
is going
but-
up.
But I'm saying that growth is still occurring.
Guam's growth. Yeah.
Guam's growth
Yeah,
is
yeah.
still occurring, not just the military.
Yeah. As the Admiral gave a great interview today, but that base is still under construction. That isn't drawing any power. All of this growth is not coming from the new base. It's
The
coming
other
from.
part of the equation is the NAFTA and the military are putting in more and more demand side
Efficient,
management
yeah.
programs.
They're getting
It's similar to
What we're doing.
all of USDC. We're helping with
Yeah.
some of that
Right.
and other things. So they are, while they're growing, they're cutting. Of course, in the marine base, I think it was estimated to about 6 megawatts.
Yeah, we can
no?
handle that.
But that's still 2025.
Don
also.
Coyote's still under construction,
Yeah,
guys.
and the chairman's right. When tourism finally kicks back in, you're going to see some recovery on the tourism side for demand,
Right.
and that's going to add. But it's very impressive to see we're adding 800 customers in the past year, most of which is residential. You're seeing us return to average load and peak load that is almost close to pre-COVID, and this is without tourism, any significant recovery by tourism. So all of that indicates that Guam is going to continue to grow, which is why we need the Ukudu power plant, which is why we want to continue to add solar, because that in combination is what's going to lower power bills and yet keep reliable power available to our ratepayers. It's all good,
Okay.
very good.
Commissioner Martinez.
How many customers do you have?
About 52.8. Right, John has it on his report. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
That's a meter, right? Those are the number of meters, right? So that,
Yes, they're based on meters.
right, so the Navy is one big meter, so.
Consider that's one.
Yeah, so if you take that, so the other impressive part to me is you take the military out, that's our own growth. That's Guam growth. That's not.
The other way I calculated that is if the military load is all residential, you're talking about having meters equivalent to about 75,000 customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet we just service them with the
You
one.
service them,
one
they
meter.
have about 17, 19 meter
Very large
points in the area, service one customer. Each,
Yeah. So it's good to see the recovery because, the more load, more growth, more customers helps pay the bills.
Yeah.
Spreads, more people are paying for it, which is why when we talk about the debt restructuring that we're seeking from the legislature, we want to take advantage of the fact that with Guam growing, you have more people to help pay the bill, which is why delaying some of the debt service till later when more ratepayers are helping to pay for the bill helps all ratepayers. And that's another reason why we're very appreciative that Senator San Augustine understands public finance and introduced the bill because he knows it can save money for ratepayers, and we hope that he'll be successful in convincing other senators, including our oversight chairman, who admitted he didn't understand even basic net present value. And if you don't understand that, then you don't understand public finance and how we layer debt service and savings. We want to front load the savings for ratepayers. We don't want to delay the savings for ratepayer, and that's what you manipulate and think about when you price out and decide how we're going to structure the bonds. The money we save for ratepayers now is far more valuable to our ratepayers now than it is 10 years from now. Ratepayers want relief now, and that bill will help us provide ratepayer relief now, not later, now. And then on the back end, depending on how we structure it, we've got subject matter experts at Gpwa, our underwriters, ourselves, the PUC. We understand public finance very well. The idea that we had thought of when we built Ukadu was the refinancing. If we take savings now for ratepayers, savings on the back end are reduced and costs go up. But when you delay costs using net present value, you're paying it with cheaper dollars, and more importantly, in the 2030s, a bunch of our debt comes off the books. And that eliminates that debt service, even if other debt has to increase. So we smooth out debt for our ratepayers, which is one way we keep the base rate, which basically hasn't moved since 2013, because we understand public finance, we understand net present value, we understand how to manage our debt in a way that helps ratepayers not have to deal with what we have to deal with on the oil side when oil does this. On the debt profile side, we know exactly what to do, and that's why we're layering. We want to refi that bond to layer the debt service where we give ratepayer savings now, and with dollars that they can appreciate now, and when we have to incur higher debt service on the back end of the structure, it'll be at a time we're paying off other loans. And so we save debt service on other loans, we gain on others, and that's how we smooth out the cost of debt service for our ratepayers and keep that base rate steady.
Yeah. I'll be remiss, Mr. Chair, if I didn't take the opportunity to thank Senator San Augustine actually for sponsoring this.
He gets it.
bills. He was really instrumental in helping us get moving on this.
And there were other senators who asked some very
Yes.
good questions, I think.
Yes, I think there were.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
so
and,
that's good. I mean,
so-
we're hopeful the legislature comes together as a body. Okay. Is there, if there's nothing else, John, are you done?
Just the CFO's quick report, Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
For the base revenues, we, for the quarter, it was about $41.8 million. We budgeted about $38.6 for federal about $3 million. Compared to last year, we're about, for the quarter was about $39 million, that's what we federal about $2.6 million. Because the megawatt count, the megawatt hours has increased. We decreased by 13,000 megawatts. Compared to prior years, it was about, for the quarter was 3,916 megawatts for the quarter.
Okay.
In terms of revenues, for the fuel revenues, for the quarter, we had about $2.9 million. Variance for the budget is pretty better, and compared to last year, it was $26 million. And this probably goes back by year, it was 8.6 cents. In October, we increased it 15 cents, in December 1st, 17 cents. In terms of O&M, our actual for the quarter is about $17.5 million. We budgeted about $19.3 million, we were over $1.7 million. Compared to prior year, our actual was about 16.5, federal budget. But at least we cover federal.
recovery. Currently, as of December, we're under is about 21.89 million. And that's increasing. Lastly, this is a sample. We were in the last working session. We were asked to what average customers will look like. We did 1,000 kilowatt hours for 2025. We projected, as what you said, about a small rate increase in base. However, it's very natural. It's less than a penny increase in base rate. But what we can get number saving is on the DX side. This is based on when the diesel fuel is about $100, and will probably go around 11.6 cents. So overall saving and the bill per lemon is about 18 cents. And the last one is with financing, without financing.
18%, 18, right? Am I reading that right? 18, not 18 cents, 18%. Yeah.
18%. As if you get financing, non-financing, the rate difference with the consultant savings fund. If you do refinancing, possibly rate increase about 2.9%. So financing has an impact.
I'm sorry, what's the increase if we don't get the refinancing approved by the legislature? What's the rate increase?
2.9%.
And we avoid that if we do get the financing?
Yes.
Okay, so there's the nutshell. To help ratepayers avoid a 2.9% rate increase, we need to refinance the 2012 bond with the structure that we've discussed. And so this actually would be useful information to give to the senators, that without the financing.
Net present value savings all up.
Well, not all the senators understand net present value, but they do understand. That's why I thought it was better. Show them the bill.
Yes.
Show them the bill that says if you don't approve the refinancing, you're increasing the cost to ratepayers by 2.9%. Why would you? We need to do everything possible to reduce anything we can for our ratepayers, whether it's on the base rate side, like debt service, or on the fuel side, like the LEAC, which is why we're building the solar farms and why we need the Ukudu Power Complex approved and supported, so that we can significantly reduce power bills. Am I reading this right? 17 to 18% by 2025, depending on whether they do the financing. And as John testified last week, we'll begin to approach 30% when we add the solar farms and Ukudu kicks in full, all right? And so I think over the next month or so, perhaps in our outreach, we can talk about really showing ratepayers, this is what it's going to mean to your bill if we refinance, if Ukudu moves forward, and the piece that, the piece in PD, the whole idea, why is the legislation for PD important? Because it speeds up the permitting. And when you speed up the permitting, guess what? You speed up savings to ratepayers. You speed up reducing harmful emissions. The PD piece is all about speeding up this plan to reduce the cost to ratepayers. And that's why that bill is important. That's why we're so grateful again to Senator San Augustine. We asked Senator Rangel if he would consider helping us. He declined. Senator San Augustine saw that it would benefit ratepayers, and that's why he introduced it. And now we can really show our ratepayers we need that Ukudu complex and the solar farms that we're planning in the integrated resource plan to lower power bills. And the legislature can play their part. They can help us in this piece, in this puzzle that we're all putting together, by passing these two pieces of legislation to help our ratepayers. All right, and this is why I wanted you to put this bill together, and maybe in the forthcoming meeting, let's show them the real cost of power when the Ukudu and the solar farms are done. This is what the bills are going to start to look like, and that's not without even mentioning the 99% reduction in harmful emissions that US EPA wants us to do. They agree that we're doing the right things. And so hopefully the legislature will join us in this effort.
Commissioner Taco.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. And John, just so I get a clear understanding, because the fuel recovery charge was reduced in both scenarios, right?
Yes.
So really we're comparing the 2025 with financing and 2025 without financing, really. So it's just under 1%, right, of savings with the financing? Most of that,
Yes, it's under one.
most of that reduction is coming from the reduction in the fuel recovery charge, right?
Of course.
Yeah, okay.
That's the big part.
But the financing saves just under 1%.
Yes.
Okay. Is that it, John?
That's it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any
We're-
other questions for our team? Nope. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very
Valenti,
much.
and good job, team.
Yeah, good job.
Okay. Can we go right into GWA? Make out. What? Okay. You want to just keep going? Keep going? No, no. Go ahead. Just keep going. Yeah. We're settling in anyway. See you later. Okay, John. We'll see you later. John.
John Kim, can you send me those bills?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm submitting my testimony, so I want to make sure I include it.
I'll send it to you right now.
Yeah, thank you.
Transfers from the GWA Rate Stabilization Fund to the GWA General Fund. If you recall, in February of 2021, the board approved Resolution 11-FY 2021, establishing the GWA Rate Stabilization Fund and authorizing us to transfer up to 11.4 million from the working capital reserves, which was funded by the dissolution of the working capital reserves for debt service under a previous resolution in fiscal year 2020. In May, we submitted and the CCU approved our budget under the comprehensive review and update package that was submitted to the PUC in May. That budget included fiscal year 22 and the planned transfers from the rate stabilization fund that are required to be in an approved budget by resolution 11 FY 2021, which established the rate stabilization fund. So you gave us the authority to make to establish the rate stabilization fund, but you told us if we were going to make any transfers, we'd have to come present them to you in an approved budget. Well, we had that in the package that you approved that we submitted to the PUC in May. and they have still not taken action. We subsequently, in order to make sure we had something in place for fiscal year '22, asked you to approve a interim fiscal year '22 budget, which is essentially just rolling over the fiscal year '21 budget. But there were no planned transfers in that budget. They're in the budget that is before the PUC, for which we still have not received any action from the PUC. So this resolution seeks your approval to transfer up to $2 million out of the rate stabilization fund and into GWA's operating account to be recognized as revenues. And the purpose, as we described previously, is to make sure that we are able to meet our 1.25 debt service coverage ratios. So because we are still waiting on resolution on our comprehensive review and update and the rates for fiscal years 22 through 24, we need this. It's necessary and urgent that we receive this authorization to transfer up to $2 million from the rate stabilization fund. The fund is set up as a separate account. It's under the control of the trustee, and we will only make the transfers if it appears that we may not, with the current revenues, meet our debt service coverage ratio targets.
Okay. Is there a motion? Okay, is there a second? Second, Commissioner Martinez. Further discussion. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes, quick question, and we can do this, we can move this reserve around without PUC, okay?
I'm sorry?
And we can move this reserve money around without PUC, okay?
Yes, all that's required is the board's approval.
Well, that makes sense, especially because right now they're still reviewing our rate case. So we need to, this was a good idea to allow us to protect like our coverage.
Debt service coverage.
While you're in the middle of a rate case or waiting for a resolution, so it's why we have.
And that was part of,
reserve for the money.
yeah, and that was part of the reason you updated the PUC on our FY22 budget, right?
Right.
Okay. Any further questions? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Next,
Get out of here weirdly.
Next,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, is Resolution 07 FY 2022, and this is requesting approval to begin procurement on indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, or IDIQ contracts, design build services contract, and also project management and construction management services contract. This is in relation to the island-wide sewer collection and transmission system, repair, rehabilitation, and replacement work that needs to be done. The project's objective is to seek the PUC's approval to begin procurement for various IDIQ projects. The goal of these projects is to rehabilitate and repair or replace sewer lines that have been identified in our 2018 Water Resources Master Plan. The location of these projects vary. Route 10 Barragata, Route 1 PD, Agate, and Route 1 Assen Force Main. So these are various projects that have been identified. The IDIQ contracts will allow us to issue specific task orders for these different projects for both the design build services that would be required for the replacements and also for the project and construction management services that would be required to oversee the construction of these projects. We anticipate that the projects that we've identified will be executed, which are important both to just the general maintenance of our infrastructure, but also these are regulatory compliance priorities that the US EPA has indicated to us they would like to see us do. So the projects are necessary. The estimated cost for these projects, as they appeared in our 2018 Water Resources Master Plan update, are approximately $13 million. So we know that this will exceed the PUC's contract review protocol amounts. And we anticipate, based on our recent experience with the Route 1 Assen to Adelup CIPP project, that the project and construction management services will also exceed $1 million for these projects that have been identified. The sequencing and issuance of the task orders for these work will be based on regulatory priority and site-specific conditions. So obviously the sites with the worst condition we would want to prioritize. We anticipate that the contracts that we issue will be for 5 years with options to renew as allowed under Guam law. The funding source that we anticipate using includes bond funds grants, internally funded CIP or revenues, and system development charge funds, which have been identified in the 5-year CIP.
Okay. Any further questions?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Move to approve, okay. Second. Any further questions?
Nope.
John?
13 million in sewer line repairs. yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. Anything else? That's
No,
it.
Mr. Chair, we don't have anything else. No issues, no further issues for decision. We have nothing, no updates to the management reports and financial reports that were provided during the work session.
Okay. Well, motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, nay. Motion, we're adjourned. Thank you very much. You guys should have gone first. Sorry.
Don't you alternate?
We alternate.